And I saw, when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed with him. In the aftermath of World War II, after the world was introduced to the devastating power of nuclear weapons, we began to harness that power for the well-being of all people as near limitless energy. Even though the following years saw the rise of luxuries and technologies only previously thought of as science fiction, it inevitably resulted in decades of overconsumption, leading to shortages worldwide. War. War never changes. A decade-long conflict followed, which left all those involved desperate and unwilling to concede. On Saturday, October 23, 2077, the war with the People's Republic of China culminated in the form of nuclear devastation. Mutually assured destruction of participating nations along with catastrophic global climate change ensued. Untold billions of people killed or maimed, as well as the total collapse of governments worldwide. In addition to the utter lack of law and order, radiation from nuclear fallout drove many to seek shelter where they could. Lucky few had secured their safety before the bombs dropped as a future resident of the many vaults throughout the United States. The focus of our story today brings us to Appalachia and West Virginia. Three major factions would rise post-war. In Charleston, the responders, a combination of city municipal and trained medical workers, took up the mantle of the failed government. Those who stayed at the local resort were unable to procure assistance, and after enduring the coldest winter recorded, learned that only the strong survive and to take what you want. A squad of Army Rangers, aptly named Taggarty's Thunder, after their colonel, Lieutenant Elizabeth Taggarty, had been training in the area before the bombs fell. After sheltering in caves, they took up residence at a local survivalist camp. Come spring, the responders set out to the surrounding area to help those they could. Those who had taken up residence in the resort had endured intense trauma and killed all those sent to render aid. The group splintered into 5 distinct factions known as the Raiders. Eventually, those who called themselves the Free States Movement emerged from their bunkers. Considered separatist preppers, this group had already grown disillusioned from their government and built their own shelters, believing a nuclear war inevitable. Members of the Free States avoided at least the initial devastation by fleeing to their bunkers before the bombs fell. When they felt it time to leave the safety of their bunkers, the members of the Free States made their way to Harper's Ferry, where they assisted survivors in the rebuilding of the city. Not long afterwards, the Free States and the responders formed an alliance, cooperating to assist those in need and perhaps serve as some form of order in the chaos. The Rangers, known as Taggarty's Thunder, made contact with a friend, Captain Roger Maxon, in California, eventually resulting in the formation of the Brotherhood of Steel. This new faction formed with the intent of assisting those who survived in preserving pre-war technology. Soon, the Free States, responders, and the Brotherhood would work together to see their respective goals realized. In 2078, the Raiders began attacking the responders, who had made their base of operations in the now vacant government building of the Old World in Charleston. On Christmas Day 2082, the relentless attacks from the Raiders reached its climax. After a failed attack at Charleston, the Raiders blew the Summersville Lake Dam, flooding what once was the capital. Having suffered devastating losses, the responders took up residence in Morgantown. They expanded their reach and recruited those willing to join their cause. In the shadows, operating in secret, a military organization known as the Enclave existed beneath the White Spring Resort. Having the goal of continuing the war with China, the Enclave has sophisticated technologies such as bio and conventional weapons, as well as nuclear launch capabilities and an AI known as Modus. Commanded by the former Secretary of Agriculture, Thomas Eckhart, fail-safes in the facility had been implemented to prevent anyone from single-handedly being able to reintroduce the world to nuclear devastation. Eckhart sought to manipulate these restrictions. The automated DEFCON system required conditions to be such that a nuclear launch was done so as a last resort. Eckhart ordered the release of robots called Liberators. And reactivated the FEV vats at the nearby West Tech facility, resulting in the creation of large and aggressive humanoids called supermutants. All this in an attempt to manipulate the safeguards of the DEFCON system. The survivors were terrorized by these unexpected threats, but were unaware of a new terror being nurtured beneath the earth. Also the result of the Enclave's near sinister meddling, it would ultimately destroy all that they had sacrificed for. An experiment caused a bat to mutate into a giant monster. These hulking beasts were capable of flight and efficient devastation. As if that weren't enough, they also carried a disease that contaminated the environment and caused those infected to heed to its will. Seeing the potential of these creatures to further his ultimate goal, Eckhart ordered the creation of more of these abominations. When the threat of these new foes became more than they could handle alone, the responders and the Brotherhood cooperated in an effort to defeat them. Although initially successful in their efforts, it resulted in a series of horrific events. The new terror came to be called Scorch Beasts. The Enclave, ultimately responsible for its creation, was not unscathed by its unbiased wrath. More importantly, Harper's Ferry was destroyed, causing members of the Free States to retreat back to their bunkers, where they eventually died out. Whether due to being overwhelmed by the never-ending stream of both foes and those in need, or by ignorance, willful or otherwise, the responders dismissed this new potential threat, a decision that they would later regret. The unions of the factions fractured. The responders continued on with their goal of assisting survivors, but without the assistance of the Brotherhood, while members of the Free States surrendered to an existence secure in their bunkers. The Brotherhood found a new home, in an abandoned insane asylum they renamed Fort Defiance. Unlike the responders, the Brotherhood eventually realized the danger the Scorch Beast posed on all of Appalachia and declared war on this new threat. The responders, having their hands full battling the infected minions of the Scorch Beast, simply called the Scorched, were unable to assist the Brotherhood in their war. Members of the Free States put in place a network of mechanisms called the Scorched Detection System to monitor movement. Since the Great War and the subsequent end of civilization, many technologies went unmaintained. Satellites, for example, eventually failed or simply had their orbit decay, causing them to burn up on their inevitable re-entry. This caused the Brotherhood to lose contact with their counterpart in California. The Brotherhood commenced with Operation Touchdown, in a desperate attempt to destroy the nest of the Scorch Beast. Hope can be a dangerous thing. What seemed like a success was eventually revealed to be all in vain. In August of 2094, the Brotherhood fell. Their fall was the push the responders needed to finally acknowledge the threat the Scorch Beast posed. They worked on a scorched inoculation and devoted their specially trained servicemen, known as fire breathers, to fight against the Scorch. In these times, there was no shortage of despair. In the fall of 2096, work on the inoculation came to a halt. The fire breathers were dead, and come winter, a last stand against the Scorch saw the end of the responders. The responders and the Brotherhood were no more. Members of the Free States awaited death in their bunkers in whatever form it may take. The Raiders had been reduced to a single faction due to the desertion or infighting over what resources remained. For years, Appalachia was a wasteland devoid of hope for any remaining survivors. Humanity, it seemed, had unwillingly relinquished dominion back to nature, or at least the mutated and unholy form it now took. October 23rd, 2102, was known to fortunate few as Reclamation Day. On this day, Vault 76 reopened. There were many vaults throughout Appalachia, and each seemed a sickening tale should you investigate the goings-on and diabolic intentions behind them. Vault 76, however, housed the best and brightest of those untouched by the horrors of post-war America. These vault dwellers ventured out with a single unified goal of gathering information and restoring order. Eventually, they finished a vaccine for the Scorch Plague, thanks to the work the responders were unable to complete. They learned of the Scorched detection system thanks to the members of the Free States and completed their work as well. Seeming an insurmountable task, the Vault 76 inhabitants even managed to learn to coexist with the Raiders. Thanks to friends, alliances, and the hard work of all those involved, the dwellers were able to vaccinate the remaining survivors of Appalachia. At least for the most part, some semblance of order had been restored. Soon the dwellers learned of the Scorch Beast from information left behind detailing the Brotherhood's efforts. A mutually beneficial agreement between the dwellers and the Enclave was formed for the purpose of launching nuclear weapons against the Scorch Beasts. Not until they were able to obtain the rank of general through the Enclave were the former inhabitants of Vault 76 finally able to defeat the Scorch Beasts, ending their reign of terror and allowing at least hope for a prosperous future.